Hello, you are listening to the Natural Healing Show for UK Health Radio. I'm your host, Catherine Carrigan, medical intuitive healer and Amazon #1 best-selling author. You can find out more about me and my work at catherinecarrigan.com and unlimitedenergynow.com. While you're there, definitely sign up for my newsletter so you can learn even more about how you can heal yourself naturally. Now, we've got a very special guest today for you. Her name is Aurena Agathe Fohler. Aurena Agathe Fohler is a holistic lifestyle coach in Sri Lanka, and you can find out more about Aurena Agathe Fohler at her website, www.arenafohler, and that's FOHLER.com. Welcome, Aurena Agathe Fohler.
Hi, thank you for having me here.
Now, what we're going to be talking about today is how to overcome trauma. And when I was growing up, there weren't mass shootings like there are today. And yet now it's a huge public health crisis worldwide as people all over the world are affected by tragedies. And Aurena Agathe Fohler, I know that you had some personal experience. If you would start by sharing what you went through for our audience.
Yeah, of course. I mean, my parents can't hear and speak, right? I'm half Sri Lankan, half German. And I know for sure my mom herself, she's traumatized. And my dad too, he's born in Czechoslovakia. It's called a German Sudetendeutscher, German. So they're born in Czechoslovakia, but they have to flee from the Second World War. They had to be leaving the country and then coming back to Germany, which they came originally from. So the whole village I was growing up in was like surrounded by those German Sudetendeutsche, which came all from the war. And it was seriously not a good time for me being a child and being like, kind of mixed breed. And I could observe them. I could see my parents, how they were dealing with things, even my foster family. So you can see on the body structure, you can see they're traumatized, the way they talk, the way they react, the way they listen to things. And sometimes they're not even fully aware of what's going on around them because they're still stuck in that trauma, what happened to them. And mostly it's either through the war, it's cruelty, like abuse in the childhood or in the family. Yeah, those are the biggest reasons why people get or have trauma.
Now, I know that here in the United States, of course, one of our biggest traumas was 9/11, when the terrorists rode 2 planes into the World Trade Center, killing, about 3,000 people. And even in Atlanta, I spent the entire month after 9/11 just taking every client that I had out of shock. And so when we think about trauma, again, there are people in Manchester who were at the Ariana Grande concert, and people in mosques in New Zealand, and there's people everywhere who are beginning to experience this trauma, and often we get re-traumatized just by hearing about it, watching the news on the internet or on television. So it's a real public health crisis. Now, Agathe Fohler, what is your background? And share with us a little bit about, how you develop the skills to help other people overcome trauma.
Okay, first of all, also just recently, it's just very recent, we had the bomb blasting, like it was not just one, it was a couple of here in Sri Lanka, in Colombo, besides the one in New Zealand and the Notre Dame church when it burned down. So yeah, people are just posting all over what's happening. And then my background is that, as I said, I'm a holistic life coach, but I have a gift, which is because I'm a star seed and I'm a multi-dimensional being. It means I have that gift. You can call it God or however you want to call it. And I can read energies and frequencies like the aura, and I can connect with your soul, and your soul tells me what's going on. And it's just, I'm working with the heart frequency. So I can even see according to the body structure and the cell memory, I can look into that and I can see if someone is traumatized, if someone has an acidic body, all those things I am able to see. That my third eye, my real eyes, and like with all my senses. So, yeah.
It sounds very much like my work as a medical intuitive. Now,
yeah.
What, in your experience, Agatha, what happens to a person's mind and body when they experience trauma?
Most of the times, actually, it always, when trauma happens, is we have body, mind, and soul, right? So now, trauma means it's a very extraordinary situation where it's like there's so much pain, either emotionally, physically, because some do get hurt physically. So the soul and the body split. It's like the soul comes out of the body, and that's when people say, hey, you're not grounded, you're not here, what happened to you, you're not listening, listen. It's like, when you sometimes you talk to someone and you say, hey, listen, and they're somewhere else, and you're just thinking, hey, you're talking and they're not even responding to you. And then you have to tap them to bring them back, because the soul, what it does, it's always when trauma happens. And that's one of the reasons why most of the times healing doesn't work. When they say, you know what, I'm not getting out of this trauma, I'm not healing, something is like I'm stuck and I still feel the same way as I used to, because we have the body, then we have the soul, and it gets disconnected. It's like the soul jumps out of the body so that the body is able to take the pain. Otherwise, it would be too much to handle all the emotions connected with the nerves and everything inside the body, and no human being would be able to handle that. So that's the reason. It's a disconnection from emotion, soul, and the body.
Now, from my perspective, what I find is that when people have experienced a shock, such as simply witnessing on television the Twin Towers burning to the ground, that's something that is an image, I think, that is forever imprinted in our psyche, for people everywhere. Is what happens from a nervous system point of view is you get stuck in the sympathetic side of the nervous system. So you have two sides of your nervous system, the sympathetic side, which responds to stress, and the parasympathetic side, which allows us to relax. And normally when we're healthy, we switch back and forth between the sympathetic and the parasympathetic. However, when you have experienced a shock, or again, whether it's a physical shock or an emotional shock, or spiritual shock, you get stuck in the sympathetic nervous system. When that happens, your body is producing primarily stress hormones. You're basically going over into the stress mode in the body. Other non-essential functions of the body shut down, so this can affect your digestion. It definitely affects your hormones. It affects your brain chemistry. And then what's interesting from my point of view, there's a technique that I do to get people out of shock. And it's quite interesting because it's the same technique, whether you fall off a roof or you've witnessed the Twin Towers gone down, or you're one of the people running out of the Ariana Grande concert in Manchester, England. And what's quite interesting from my point of view is you hold shock in your joints. So I begin by checking your feet, then I go to your ankles, then your knees, your hips, your wrists, your elbows, your shoulders, and your neck. And this is important because I think a lot of people who have chronic joint pain, whether it's your feet, your ankles, your knees, your hips, your wrists, your elbows, your shoulders, or your neck, if you have chronic joint pain that you can't seem to get out of, and you're eating a very clean diet and working on the physical aspects, one of the questions I think that people need to ask themselves is, am I in shock? And this could be a shock from something that happened to you in childhood, because many of us have post-traumatic stress disorder from things that we've either been a part of, we participated in, or we have witnessed. Where do you find, Aurena Agathe Fohler, that people tend to hold shock in their bodies? Where do you see most?
Yeah, you're so absolutely right. I work with the meridians and also with kinesiology. So we have the chakras, we have the meridians, and we have certain phrases in our language, like even in Germany, we say, mir kommt die Galle hoch. That means my gallbladder is like boiling, and that means, okay, you're angry, right? And that's connected to your gallbladder. When you say, oh, my tummy is upset, that means you're upset about something. So your body, your organs are actually talking to you. It's like your whole body, like even in Ayurveda, it's like a library. It's like you can study, you don't even need MRI or any of those machines. When you just look at the body and you talk to the client and you say, hey, where do you feel it in your body? And they will be able to pinpoint it and say, oh, my tummy right now is very upset. So that means it's the second chakra, which is connected to a certain age group, like I think from 7 to 14. And then according to that, you can actually say, okay, this happened between the age, it's just an example, between the age of 7 to 14, something happened in your childhood, and you're putting your emotions down, which is connected to your tummy, which is like the digestion. What are you not able to digest? And your body is an amazing biomachine, that's how I call it, because whatever you experience, let's say you had an accident, or like someone had an accident, and a woman is driving a yellow car, and then there's a lorry crashing the yellow car, and there's a little boy witnessing the woman getting crashed in the yellow car. Maybe over the years, now he's 50 years old, he totally forgot about the accident, but every time he sees the color yellow, he totally freaks out. And then he comes maybe to people like you or me, and then he says, every time I see the color yellow, I can't breathe, I can't talk, I'm like frozen, and I don't know what's going on. And then we have the great capacities and abilities, just by reading the body language, to go back in time and to release that. And then to find out, hey, it was a yellow car who causes all this anxiety and trauma within that person.
Yeah, I totally agree, Aurena Agathe Fohler. And another technique that I do is something called a postural stress release. So for example, let's say you were in a car wreck, okay? And that's a trauma that a lot of people experience. So you're in a car wreck, and whether you were a passenger or you were driving, but your body was in a specific position. And then what happens is, even if you think you're over the accident, every time your body goes back into that physical position at a cellular level, it brings up and often relives the memory of trauma. I remember myself, one of the most profound healings that I ever had. This is an interesting story. I remember I was studying natural healing in Canada, and I had always been hyperactive. And I always had a really hard time sitting in chairs. I really didn't like sitting down. And so the teacher who was demonstrating postural stress release, she asked for a volunteer, because she was going to do a healing to just help someone be able to sit in a chair. You think, oh, how easy is that? How much trauma can you have about sitting in a chair? So anyway, really, it's like, we do that every day. So anyway, so we went into this healing, and I had a flashback, and I remembered exactly what happened. I had been in a program in the city where I grew up. I grew up in Savannah, Georgia, and I was in a program for gifted science students. And I was one of only 2 girls in this program for about 50 people. Everybody else is a boy. And I was 16 years old, and I got my period. And I was sitting in a chair in the front.
Oh my God. I know that. Oh my gosh. I really know how you feel. Oh my God. Yes.
And I remember realizing what happened and being very humiliated. And when I went home, I said to my parents, I don't want to go back. I'm so embarrassed. And my parents, for whatever reason, they got very angry that I didn't want to go back. And then my father beat me up. And so when we did this little simple healing about sitting in a chair, I literally, at a cellular level, I relived what it felt like to be beat up, what it felt like to be shocked and embarrassed, and all that trauma came out. And so when we talk about trauma, again, a lot of times it affects even everyday activities. And, I definitely worked with veterans who, certain sounds will set them off, right? So you really don't know what it is. But my other experience as a healer is that when you're working to release trauma, you can't just go in there and get it. You almost have to like gently, very, very softly creep up on it. And it's my experience that to release trauma, the gentlest techniques work the best, because you almost have to bypass your ego mind so that the psyche doesn't even know what you're releasing. So you have to create this super safe environment, and the person needs to feel safe. They need to feel comfortable with you as a healer. What's your experience about, Agatha, what do people really need to be able to unwind the trauma in their lives?
Most of all, it's always, as you said, they need to trust you. You need to give a space of they can feel safe, because trauma happens when you don't feel safe. And it always is a part of culture. I would say almost every human being. So don't feel like you're like an outsider. Whoever's traumatized out there, don't feel it's you have to hide it, or it's like you feel embarrassed about it. Don't, because each country has their own culture, and each culture in their own way doesn't mean it's like you're being a man or woman, create some way of culture. Like, even as you said, I have experienced that. I was like sitting in the class, boys and girls, and we had to do like a special exam. And then when I got up, and I'm so lucky, I was like one of the last 2-3 people, and my foot chair was full of blood. And I'm like, oh my God, I felt so embarrassed. And it's just being a woman and having your period connected to religion can already cause trauma. It's just you just being a girl, and all of a sudden you're bleeding, it can cause trauma. So it is about giving a safe environment, showing, hey, whoever you are, it's totally okay. And whatever you experience, it's totally okay. I'm with you. And most important is what I do is I do address the issue, being very honest, because most of the times people haven't realized what actually happened to them. And the moment they hear it and they're being aware of it, like once it comes to your conscious, you're being back into your own power, and that's when you can make a change, because you understand why your body is reacting a certain way in a certain situation. And the moment it happens, you can recalibrate yourself and remind yourself what happened in the past, it's not happening anymore, and you are safe now. And that's like so important to know you're safe now.
Right. And I think that you said several really important things, because a lot of times people have experienced trauma, and you may know that you've had trauma in your life, but one of the things that I advise my clients is don't try and go in there and clear it all at one time, because you need to develop resources, both inner and outer resources, before you're able to fully release the trauma, whether you are working with a highly trained practitioner, whether you feel safe in your own life now. Maybe you need to even build up your personal chi or your health, so you develop the vitality to be able to clear it, right? And
absolutely.
Yeah. And the other thing that I say to people is, you want to give yourself permission. And you can give yourself permission to remember what happened, or you can also give yourself permission not to remember what happened, but to know that you can clear the effects of trauma without having to go into the story. What's your experience about that?
One thing which is important to me, because me being a star seed, it's like the new generation, and I'm 100% sure you're one of them, otherwise we wouldn't be talking today, right? And you would give me the possibility to talk here with you about trauma. We have psychic abilities, we are being empaths, and already we are very different to the elderly generation which don't have those psychic abilities. So the most crucial part is always to understand who you are, to learn about yourself, how you react in certain environments, because just because one person runs out of the room when there's fire doesn't mean that you will run too. Maybe you freeze, right? Everyone has a different way of expressing emotions, reacting in a certain environment, and having your own unique way of being. So it's important for you to know how you react, how you feel, how you think, and who you are. And the moment you're more stable within yourself, understanding who you are, where you're coming from, having solid ground roots, even it can be so different from your own family, doesn't mean you have to be like your family members. Even that can be so different. But that moment you're stable within yourself, that makes it so much easier to release trauma. So I would suggest, try to understand yourself, try to get to know yourself and have a relationship with yourself.
I think we're in full agreement here. Now, one of the things that I know that you and I experience is that we hold different emotions in different organs, right? And you and I both agree you don't need an MRI. MRIs are magical and fascinating to me to be able to see the layers of tissue. But as a medical intuitive and as someone who reads the energy field like you do, we know that your body is like your biography, right?
Absolutely. Amazing machine. Yeah.
Yeah.
Creation. Yeah.
Someone who's highly trained can go, okay, you're holding, I did a medical intuitive reading yesterday on somebody who has chronic lung issues. And the primary emotion was regret. It was like, it's like, okay, well, we've all made a mistake or so. What's your experience, Agatha, about our organs and what happens to our organs when we experience trauma, and how can we unwind the effects?
Mm-hmm. Sure. I can give you some examples. It's called traditional Chinese medicine, again, which they work with acupuncture and the meridians. Now, when you say talking about the lungs, I even learned in kinesiology, when you can put a needle on the meridian, let's say the lung meridian, which starts from the thumb. So the thumb is connected to the lung. Also, every time if you have something with the skin, most of the time it's connected to the lungs. People who have, for example, asthma, have also very often, not always, but very often, skin problems like rashes or something, right? Now, when you can Google it, everyone out there, you can Google it, you can help yourself. Please don't just run to people and listen what they say. Also make sure that you do your own research. So we have internet, right? Make use of it. That's why Catherine is giving you the opportunity to learn and help yourself, right? So that's why we are talking. Go to the internet, Google lung meridian, and then you will see even the emotions. They're listed connected to it, which is being tolerant with yourself and others, about feeling free, because sometimes you can't breathe. It's like a feeling of being claustrophobic. It's like you don't feel like you have your own space. You're not feeling good within your body or in your environment or wherever you are. So that's breathing. That's the lung. Also, like expanding yourself, like being present, having your own way of being and showing it, presenting it to the world. So that is connected, for example, to the lung, right? And not obeying anyone. It's like being in your self-empowerment. That's all connected to the lungs. I know you guys would think, what is she talking about? But one organ can tell you so much about a human being. So even if you have asthma, it tells a lot about a person, and even the family ancestral lineage. You know, that means something, talking about trauma, something happened like 3 generations before, maybe, let's say, okay, there was a bomb, or like, as you said, the World Trade Center, it was like a plane is crashing into a building, and all the dust comes in your face. You can't breathe, you feel like dying, and you're totally under shock, and your lungs are full of the dust. That memory is stored in your cell memory, even in your genes. So like when they say cancer is it's from heritage, kind of, yes. The energy memory, the cell memory, that is heritage, which you can heal and release. So now that person couldn't breathe, the dust came onto the lungs, that memory, because it didn't get healed, it's in your memory, cell memory, it comes down from one child to the other, and that maybe 3rd generation has asthma problem.
Yes, and for our audience, you mentioned looking things up on the internet. So I'm going to give our audience a resource, a free resource that you can download right now that'll tell you a lot about the emotions behind your health. So if you go to one of my websites, which is Unlimited Energy Now, that's unlimitedenergynow.com, then across the top, there is a menu bar called, and if you go to the menu item called Media, and then scroll down to free downloads, there is a free chart that you can download there called Emotions and Your Health. And it'll explain to you every emotion that's most likely stored in every acupuncture meridian in your body, every organ in your body, and as well as all the muscles that are associated with that. So once again, you're going to go to unlimitedenergynow.com, you're going to go to media, and then free downloads, and then you are going to check on emotions and your health. So it's very helpful, I think, Agatha, for people to understand, you know, the emotions that they're feeling all the time and their health. Now, Aurena Agathe Fohler, how do you feel we can heal from trauma? What are some of the steps if somebody's listening and they know they've been through trauma? What do you feel that they need to do?
First of all, always make sure that you do things you like to do, not you don't do things because other people ask you to do it if you're not comfortable. If you're not comfortable being in a certain environment because it freaks you out, don't force yourself till you feel it's the right time to expose yourself to this environment, okay? I always suggest connect with nature. Go in nature. Nature has the biggest healing capacity at, like, out of everything, nature can heal anything. There's so many plants like Bach flowers, homeopathy, which really, like, I had this issue that there was some trauma regarding me being a woman, and then seeing men in my environment all hurt from the war, traumatized, being angry, being abusive. So my whole right side was hurting, right? So I went to this homeopathy doctor, and she gave me some remedy which is just working on the right side. I never heard of it, and it really works. Within 2-3 days, my whole body was feeling so much better because that special plant was just working on the right side of my body. Isn't that amazing? So go to nature, you make use of nature, do things which is comfortable for you till you're ready, whatever you want to do. And there's one exercise which I even do till now and every day, because it's like we always have to be grounded. You can walk barefoot. It's all about the breathing. Make sure that you have enough air in your body so that you can feel your body, like even getting massages done, or like doing some exercise. You know, just don't lie around and be lethargic. Just do some exercise, feel your body. And there's one exercise you can do. It's like, I'm body, mind, and soul. I'm 100% in my body. Thank you, my dear loving soul, that you're 100% in my body. And you will feel plop. It's like you feel maybe a little heavy, but that's when you feel actually being in your body. And then you can feel yourself. And that's when you can decide between you like something or you don't like something. That's so important. You need to know what you like and you don't like to feel good and be healthy.
Now,
and to release, of course, trauma, because trauma means something happened which was totally crossing your boundary and was like overwhelming. That's how trauma is caused.
now, Aurena Agathe Fohler, you and I both agree that you can't unwind all your traumas all at once.
And no way. That's again another trauma.
It's like layers, right? There's just like onions, right? So in your experience as a healer, why do you feel we can't unwind all the traumas all at once?
Wow, because already trauma is caused because something was so overwhelming. And now we have different levels, body, mind, and soul. And it happens even in different layers of our aura. And it's connected to different emotions, different organs. Now, if we would do it all at the same time, it would be too much to digest. Okay, that would be just causing, it's like something so massive happened to you. So give yourself time, be loving and caring. It's not all about self-worth and self-love. And as you said, it's like a layer of an onion. You can have a major big breakthrough, yes. And sometimes your mind, and I have noticed that many times with clients, they say, oh, I'm ready, I want to do this now. And they're pushing you because they want to go through certain stages like really fast because they want to get over it and done with it. No, sorry, it doesn't work like that. It's connected to emotions, and that means you have to be emotional ready for healing. That means when you're safe and you're ready for emotional healing, you open up, and that's when you open up and you feel safe and good, that's when your body can start healing as well, because your body takes some time for, like, just see, if you have a little wound, it takes some time to heal, right? It doesn't mean it will never heal, but it takes time. And that's the self-love you give yourself, that you give yourself time, because that happened, the trauma happened so fast, so all of a sudden, and now it's just the opposite. You're giving yourself time, love, care, and nourishment.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And creating the space for which you can process, and you can create the space to heal from trauma, like Aurena Agathe Fohler talks about, by creating this super safe environment, enjoying exercise and movement that helps you be in your body in a comfortable way, being in nature, and avoid putting too much stress on you. Because if your body's been stuck in the sympathetic side of your nervous system for years, maybe even decades, possibly even your whole life, your nervous system has been overworking. And you need to take time to actually physically rest. Because what happens, my experience, when somebody's been stuck in the sympathetic nervous system, and then you take them out of shock, all of a sudden, suddenly you feel everything that you've been frozen from.
Newborn baby.
Yeah.
Very fragile.
Yeah, very fragile, and suddenly you realize how exhausted you are, right?
Yeah.
So, being in sympathetic overdrive for years puts you in a state of adrenal burnout. Now, Aurena Agathe Fohler, what inner resources do you feel it's important for us to develop inside of ourselves to heal from our traumas?
You spoke about the nervous system. Now, inside of us is always our body, our emotions. It's always us. It's always who we are. Now we have a left side of the brain and the right side of the brain. If we are totally like stressed out, and trauma means we are stressed and it's like so much stress that we can't bear it, that's when sometimes people are not able to speak clearly, they start mumbling. Some people have blurred vision, or they can't even think clearly. So we have to set and create a foundation, like a stable base, so that they can start being aware of themselves, talking, being able to express themselves. Because trauma means it's like we are being in a state of being frozen or not even able to express ourselves. It's like we're totally stuck. Now there's an exercise which you can do. It's like you can take your right arm and your left knee and you cross it and you walk. And then you take the next step and you take your left arm and your right knee and you walk. And you keep doing the cross, it's called cross walking, which is helping you to realign the left and the right brain to work together. That's when the stress level calms down. So there are certain exercises, you can even Google it, kinesiology, you can use the laying aid, you can take your finger in front of you and you go from the middle up to the right side, left, and then like down, and then go to the middle back, and then the left side up and down. So, and you can follow with your eyes. It's the EDMR. It's also like a method to release stress and trauma. So the moment the left and the right side works together, the soul and the body, low and above, and like emotions, and like even when you start crying all of a sudden, just cry, let it all out. Crying is clearing your whole system. It's like clearing everything what happened and blocked within yourself. So I think that is something which something is like deep inside of you and it was blocked. We need to create a base so that we can embrace it.
Yes. Now, another resource that's free and available to our audience, I wrote an article with video instructions for something called repatterning. Now, as Aurena Agathe Fohler mentioned, when you're stressed, you're literally only using one side of your brain. And many people who have been in trauma or experienced PTSD, they maybe only use one side of their brain the whole life. And that affects your energy, your mood, depression, anxiety, your coordination, your ability to learn, literally everything about you, because your brain is your most important organ. So if you Google repatterning Catherine Carrigan, and again, it's repatterning Catherine Carrigan, I wrote an article for you with complete instructions that shows you how to integrate both sides of your brain. It only takes 3 minutes. You turn on the right side, then you turn on the left side of the brain, and then you bring them together. So it's my experience that if you repattern every day, twice a day, 3 minutes, twice a day, for 10 weeks, it's going to change your whole neurophysiology. So even if you've had PTSD for decades, if you repattern, you're going to be able to access your whole brain. Everything will be easier. Now, Aurena Agathe Fohler, how can we develop kindness and compassion for ourselves? For those of us who've experienced trauma, and that's pretty much every human being on the planet.
I think you can read my mind. I was just saying we need to talk about that.
Yes. So share us your thoughts.
Yeah, like when you just said 10 weeks, I was thinking, oh my God, we have to talk about a bit more about this. Why 10 weeks, or maybe why they say sometimes 7 weeks or 2 months or 3 months. It's all about time. It's about that we are in a very nice, soothing, caring way. It's like, yeah, a baby is born, but how many months does it take to be born? It has to develop within the tummy, the womb of the mother, and it has to be nourished, has to grow, and it needs to have a skin so that and lungs, so when it's born that it can actually breathe, and then it's protected by the skin, right? And then we have the parents who are looking after us. And from being a baby, becoming an adult, it takes like, say, 16, 17, 18 years. It doesn't happen overnight. In the same way, healing means you are working with yourself. Your healing means getting to know yourself and giving time to yourself. what we do in society is we always focus on other people, we always focus on what's around us. Healing means going within of us, learning ourselves to get to know it, like myself, and then giving myself time to learn something. And our body didn't learn to walk within a day. We started getting up, but it took lots of strength, and then we are falling, and then again we're getting up, and then again we're falling. And healing also means never to give up, always to keep going, stand up, and give yourself time, and make yourself strong so that you actually can get up and start walking. And then when we walk, we need balance, right? Balance means so inside, so it's outside. What we experience in the outside. Now, also what is very important to know about trauma is if I experience trauma, let's say it's abuse, that means it did happen already in the past, either in my past life. If people don't believe in past life, then maybe it did happen in the family tradition. And then it happens to me because I'm the one, let's say we are the lucky ones, because we have the strength, we have the opportunities, and we have everything it takes that we are able to heal it, not just for myself, for the people around me, and for my family as well. The moment you heal trauma for yourself, you're healing it for your family as well. And that's a huge blessing. I would like to mention that. Yeah, it's a blessing.
I agree with you, Aurena and Agathe Fohler. And, you know, we have to remember that when you look at your own DNA, you have 50% of your DNA comes from your mother, 50% of your DNA comes from your father, your grandparents, you have 25% from your grandparents and on back. So literally at a cellular level, you are holding the cellular memories of all the traumas that they lived through, right?
Yes.
As well as what you went through. So as Aurena Agathe Fohler mentioned, when you do the inner work to release the traumas that you're holding, you are healing past generations because you're clearing the energy for them. And you're also clearing the energy so that you're not passing that trauma along to your children. So
exactly. Thank you for mentioning that, Catherine. Yes, exactly. We don't want to pass those burdens on to our children.
Right. So you know, a lot of people think, well, maybe, you know, it's selfish to spend time and money on myself. No, not at all.
It's self-worth. Spend the money on yourself. If not on yourself, on whom will you spend it? Of course, on yourself.
If you don't take care of you, who will? And the other thing is that when you heal for something, you also become a living, breathing embodiment of possibility. You know?
To others and around you. You become an idol.
Yeah. So it's that word, you know, impossible. I am possible. It is possible, and I'm sure Aurena Agathe Fohler would agree with me, to overcome from all kinds of traumas. Right?
Yes. I mean, I don't know how much money I've spent. And sometimes people, you know, sometimes there's Facebook, they have those groups. And then they say, why should I pay for healing? And I'm like, of course we should pay for healing. It's a service, it's a time, it's knowledge. And we're not paying for the healer's service. We're paying for ourselves to get healed. And of course, we need someone who helps us, who guides us. They're not there to do. It's like they're spending time is like if you call I don't know, like if you buy a carpet and someone made that carpet, you pay for the time, right? And it's the money you spend is the money you are worth it. It's like you're spending money because you're worth it. And that money always comes back to you. So please, you're working. Sorry to say, you're working your ass off for whom? So that you are fit, that you're stable, that you're healthy and happy. Of course you should spend money on yourself. Get a nice massage. Go and join some workshops if it's helping you to learn to understand yourself and the world and make it a better place. Of course. Yeah, of course. Right. And it always comes back, always.
Right. And when you take the time to reset yourself, then you're creating a better space for everybody around you. Because if you've experienced trauma, as Aurena Agathe Fohler
Yes.
would agree, you're literally holding that in your energy field. And other people, even if they don't know your soul story, they can feel your energy, right?
Exactly, Catherine. When you were saying what happened to you, today you're sitting here and you can write books, you can talk about it, and you can help millions of people. And that's the same way for me. If I wouldn't have been gone through all what I had to go through, I wouldn't be standing here. And if I wouldn't have gotten up and moved my bum, I wouldn't be able to help so many people. And just to see one person recovering, oh my God, it's just a blessing. And that one person maybe touches hundred thousands of people. Just imagine that, how it works. That's the dynamics of life and healing.
Right. And, another thing that we haven't touched on is how trauma affects your aura. The trauma can literally dissolve the layers of your energy field, making you much more environmentally sensitive and much more susceptible to electromagnetic fields and chemicals and all kinds of diseases. And it can also shatter your chakras, right? So it has very profound effects. So, Aurena Agathe Fohler, you live in Sri Lanka, holistic lifestyle coach. Any final thoughts for our audience about how they can overcome trauma?
Yes. As I said, like many people are always deep down, there's always fear. Healing means there's a lack of love, and there's fear stronger than love. So we have given up on ourselves, on love and who we are and the world around us. Now, what I was telling the people here in Sri Lanka is because they had times they couldn't even sleep anymore because the bombs went up and they were scared of their life, right? But there's one thing, I'm living here, but I'm not scared. And do you know why? Because every day I'm doing something which, like, if I love someone, I tell the people I love them. I will not hide it. If I want to do something in my life which makes me happy, I will not wait 5 years to do it. I will do it right away, or the moment I can do it, I'm able to do it. Like, let's say I want to go for a walk, I will go for a walk, even if it's 2 minutes. But that gives me some pleasure and some relief that I'm doing what I'm supposed to do here on this planet, living my path and doing my mission. And means being happy. And we have forgotten one thing: everyone has to die. And it can happen today, it can happen tomorrow, or in 5 years. And it doesn't mean, and we don't know when it happens. So if something really cruel happens to the world, and yes, there are bombs and there's war, always remember one thing: it's not in our hands when we're supposed to go. It's in someone else's hands. And trusting in that means you can tell yourself, I'm at the right time, the right place, with the right people. And the moment you're happy doing things you love to do, increases your vibration and drags you away from places which have very low frequency, which trauma and drama and war and stuff happen, because your vibration is way higher. Like what I had is, like, I'm born in Germany, right? And we had all those, I don't know how to say, asylum people came into the country. And on the radio, on TV, it was like they're all at the main train station in Munich. But I swear, every time I would reach the main train station, I didn't see them. I don't know where I was and where they were. I didn't see them because it's called in the middle of the hurricane. So I'm safe because I'm in the middle of the hurricane. It's around me, it's crazy and going on, and I don't know what's happening. But I'm in that very tiny, teeny, weeny point, which I'm all safe because my frequency is different from the one around me. So please,
You've been listening to Aurena Agathe Fohler. This is Catherine Carrigan, medical intuitive healer and Amazon #1 bestselling author. You can find out more about me and my work at catherinecarrigan.com and unlimitedenergynow.com. While you're there, definitely sign up for my newsletter so you can learn even more about how you can heal yourself naturally. Find out more about Aurena Agathe Fohler at arena.fohler, FOHLER.com. And remember, you can heal from trauma. And when
Yes,
you take time to create
very much.
the inner and outer resources, you can raise your frequency and feel better naturally. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.